Hi everyone. So I'm sitting here in my beautiful office and the sun is shining brightly through the window behind me, and I'm feeling a little bit like I should just curl right up on the floor there like my cat and take a nap. It's funny how the sun can be so deceiving. Looking out my window, you would think it's a perfect day to build a snow person. It looks all warm and melty out there, but it's actually minus 32 at the moment with the wind chill. I remember a few years ago when we had a young woman from Nicaragua come stay with us for a few months. She arrived at night when it was dark, so she hadn't really been able to see what it was like outside. Now it was mid-November and it was already very, very cold, lots of snow. The next morning, she needed to take a bus to where she was gathering with the other volunteers from Canada World Youth. So she came out of her room and she was just wearing this t-shirt and blue jeans. So I told her that she might be a little cold, but she insisted she was okay and she was an adult, so. But then I noticed she was heading out the door and she wasn't putting on a coat. I reminded her that she was in Canada now and it was very cold. She looked confused. The sky was bright and blue and the sun was shining brilliantly. And she said, no, I'm okay. While being someone who believes in natural consequences, I said, all right, see you later. So she opened the front door and hadn't even taken a step outside when she started gasping. And she quickly slammed the door and turned around and looked at us with this expression of horror and confusion on her face. Of course, we laughed. And then we handed her a coat and her hat and scarf and mitts. See, in Nicaragua, when the sun is shining, it's hot outside. Not true here. You don't really know the temperature unless you go into it or you check the weather app. Bright, beautiful, shining sun shining through the window doesn't necessarily tell you what's actually going on outside. I think that's often true of us, of our behavior and our feelings. They don't always match up. How we're behaving doesn't necessarily tell anyone what we are actually feeling. How many times have you responded to the question, how are you, with, well, I'm good, or I'm fine, or I'm doing well, thanks. When what would be more accurate would be to say, I feel like I'm drowning in overwhelming feelings of frustration and fear and anger and grief. I'm losing sleep at night, worrying about this pandemic and how it's impacting our lives. I'm worrying about my family and my friends. I'm worrying about my kids and their teachers, worrying about hospital staff and the staff in seniors' homes, and about the seniors living in those homes. I'm worried about all of this isolation and what it is doing to our sense of community. Now, of course, we can't all be laying our feelings out all over the place all the time. That wouldn't be at all helpful. And I suspect people would stop asking us how we're doing. Maybe even stop talking to us altogether. But we also don't need to put on a friendly, I'm okay, nothing can get me down smile, when that's not what we're really feeling. We don't need to suck it up or power through. The consequences of sucking it up can be devastating for us, for our mental health. The other day, I went on Facebook and I read the post of someone who I've come to rely on as being pretty consistently optimistic. He's a true 7 on the Enneagram, the kind of person that just makes you happy to be around. He's easygoing, he's always joking, and like I said, optimistic and joyful. His post caught my attention and my heart because it was a post of lament, tied together with fear and anger and frustration. And this is what it said, and I am sharing this with you with his permission. So it said, have to admit that the emotional math caught me off guard earlier this morning. Remember how relieved, excited, and grateful we were to receive our vaccinations? Smiles, tears, and green sticker selfies all around? It turns out you can multiply that by 10,000%. That's the level of underlying anxiety, powerlessness, and yes, anger that many of us with vulnerable small children go to sleep with and wake up with right now. There are a lot of societal needs and desires we all weigh and consider. That's what a community does together. It feels like care for the physical health of my kids isn't high enough on the list of priorities. I was moved by this post, by its honesty and vulnerability. And I was also moved by the responses. 70 people liked that post, and I think they probably liked it because they can relate to it. And the comments that followed were all heart-filled comments written by people expressing the same feelings of fear and concern and frustration. His open and vulnerable post touched the suffering of many of his friends who then also felt able to express their own vulnerability. And along with the vulnerability were words of compassion and support. Outside was matching inside. Sure, there are always things to be grateful for, to celebrate. There is so much love and joy in the world, even during a pandemic. But to fully appreciate those things, we need to allow ourselves to express the harder things, the struggling things. And we need to provide space for people to be able to do so. So the next time you ask someone how they're doing and they respond, "I'm fine," try again. Ask, "How are you really doing?" And then pause and be prepared to listen. It's really unfortunate that at the time when so much struggling is happening in the world that we are also still isolated from each other and from our communities of support. That's why each of us individually need to do whatever we can to reach out, to reach in, to find little points of connection with others who we can share our insides with. Reading that Facebook post reminded me that the struggle is not mine alone. Everyone is struggling, if not about pandemic stuff, about other stuff. I mean, struggling is part of life. Sucking it up or powering through is not. So I want to close this time by sharing a blessing that was shared with me a few weeks ago. And this is written by Kate Bowler, author and cancer survivor. And she sends a weekly blessing out to everyone on her email list. And this one is called "A Blessing for When You Realize Everyone is Struggling." Blessed are you who have realized that life is hard and it's hard for everyone. Your awareness came at a cost. You lost something you can't get back. You were diagnosed with chronic pain or a degenerative disease. Your family fell apart and things have never been the same. Blessed are you who gave up the myth that the good life is one of happiness, success, perfection, the life that looks beautiful on Facebook but isn't real. You who realize it is okay to not be okay, to not have a shiny life because no one does. Blessed are you who see things clearly, where struggle is everyone's normal. You walk among the fellowship of the afflicted, a club no one wants to join. And while this life isn't shiny, it does come with superpowers. Superpowers of ever-widening empathy and existential courage that get you back up after another fall. And a deepening awe at the beauty and love that can be found amid life's rubble. Like flowers that grow from the cracks in the sidewalk, these virtues blossom in you, and thank God for you. Blessed are all of us who struggle, for we are in good company and will never walk alone. We are not alone. We live in God's world. Thanks be to God. So I pray you have a blessed week, that there will be moments when the inside you and the outside you are perfectly aligned, when you will find a point of connection with another person, a vulnerable, honest, and real point of connection. May it be so.